Hello, Ken Spriggs here with a quick video of a build that I wasn't quite sure that I was going to get to or not. I was finishing up my second N1 Starfighter, my junked version with the Pelimato workshop, and that was obviously the priority, getting it done in time to go to WonderFest. So I did get that completed on Memorial Day earlier in the day. So I'm going to go ahead and tackle this other model and try to get it completed as well as the last minute. This figure I actually saw in April at the IPMS convention in Indianapolis. A gentleman from here in Indiana was selling them. I'm not sure if it's cast resin or it is 3D printed, but I got his info and I ordered one from him and he mailed it to me. It is a kind of a half bust of Godzilla from the latest Toho Japanese version of Godzilla Minus One. Really love the film. It's my favorite Godzilla to date. I'm doing a diorama, an ocean diorama of him chasing the fishing boat. One of the scenes from the movie, if you've seen the film or you saw the previews of it. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so I'm working on this Godzilla Minus One diorama. I got this really cool figure, half figure, from a guy here in Indiana. I saw it down at the IPMS convention in Indianapolis in April. So I ordered it from him and had it shipped to me. He prints these out. He also has a small and a large version of the standing Godzilla in the Rex City, which is kind of cool. I might get that at some point. But I absolutely love this movie. My favorite Godzilla movie to date. It was really, really well done. Well deserved the special effects award that it won from the Academy Awards. It won an Oscar for special effects. One of my favorite scenes is when the main characters are on the little fishing boat out blowing up mines, and because this is after World War II. And Godzilla shows up, just destroys another fishing boat, just comes out of the water and grabs it in his mouth and destroys it. So they're taking off and they're running, and they have two mines on the boat. And so they drop one, and he's kind of going underwater, and it blows up in his spine, spikes, whatever those are. Doesn't really harm him. So they drop another one, and it goes into his mouth, but they're on a cord, and it doesn't detonate, so the main character shoots it with a machine gun and blows it up in his mouth, and it does a lot of damage to him, but he quickly heals. So they're just like, we're doomed, we're gonna die. And his battleship shows up and starts blasting Godzilla and does some harm to him, but he destroys that as well. So they do survive. But this is going to be the diorama that I'm making where he's chasing their boat. So I 3D printed a little tugboat that I got, and I've already done some modification to it. So I added that little gunner's crow's nest with a 50 caliber machine gun. I glued on a little swivel crane that drops the landmines into the water. Now the only thing is, this isn't accurate to their boat very well. It doesn't have this pilot's cabin there. So I'm thinking about cutting that off. I do have a couple of HO scale figures that I can put in here. They're still a little bit too big for it, but we'll see. But right now what I'm working on is I'm positioning Godzilla in the boat to do the water effects. So I'm going to follow a tutorial that Augie Gonzalez had done, and he had gotten from another YouTuber, where you basically start with clay. and you mold the waves that you want to be, roughly for the ocean. And obviously he's moving pretty fast and they're running away, so there's waves coming away from him and a lot of foam. So you mold that first, and then he used air dry clay. I'm going to use oven baked Sculpey. So this piece of wood inside of here, this is a frame I got from Hobby Lobby. Their wood and their frames are great for making dioramas. Highly recommend it. So this piece is loose inside. It fits inside of here. So once I put the clay on it, I'm going to pull this out. It's a thin MDF board. It's not going to be harmed in the oven. You only bake the oven baked clay at 275 for like 15 minutes. So it's not a big deal. So I'm going to put that in, let it harden. Remove the figures, of course, the boat and Godzilla. Just have them indented where they're going to be, where the waves are going to be. And then let that cool. Once that's hardened, then you use a similar effect that I did on my last build with the tarps. You use wet wipes, but instead you use a clear gloss gel to adhere them down over the waves to give it more of a uniform look. And you can put paints on them and paint it, and then he used cotton to highlight the waves or the white water. So we're going to give that a try, see if we can do a water effect, and then and I'll paint Godzilla and the boat separately and then glue them down into it. So all right. All right, so I used some Sculpey oven baked clay, put it all over the entire surface, little bits at a time, and then built the waves up around Godzilla and the boat. So I'm going to go ahead and remove them, and then remove the MDF board that fits down into this frame with the oven baked clay on it, and put it in the oven. And it's only at 275, so it shouldn't hurt it. So let me go ahead and bake that and get that hardened. And I did a few tests with some other ones that I put on a piece of wood just to test it out, and use some wipes on it and some toilet paper I was testing as well. But I'll show you that in a few minutes. All right, so here is the oven baked clay. I baked it in the oven on the board. And it's nice and hard. It's nice and solid. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do before I put this down inside the frame, I'm going to get and paint the frame. I think I'm just going to do like a dark blue to go with the water effect, because I don't want to have to try to do that once I get this glued inside. And then I'll glue this down inside the frame, let that harden, and then I can start putting on the wet wipes with the gloss gel to smooth out the waves, and then begin doing some different colors and paints and that kind of thing. So, okay. All right, so I painted the frame with just a blue. It's the regular blue from Vallejo. I put a lot of Aleene's foam and felt glue onto the inside of this frame. Press this down inside of it, and I put some clamps around the edges of it. Didn't harm it any. Didn't harm this surface here, and let that dry overnight so it's nice and solid. So I went ahead and applied the wet wipes, and I just had some really cheap ones that I got, and I didn't get them because of the cost. I wanted them to be rather, plain and flimsy. You don't want anything with a pattern in it, and these ones worked well. And what I did was I just threw them in the microwave for about a minute and dried them out. It took maybe about 8 to 10 of them to cover it, and just used some gel medium. Let me get that for you. Sorry. I used this gloss gel medium acrylic from Hobby Lobby. So I was trying to figure out what the purpose of this is. What does this do? It's gloss and it's a gel, so I assumed it was supposed to make it glossy. It does kind of. If I get in there and show you, it is dry. It has a little bit of a gloss to it, but this is not the glossy final look. So I went back and watched Augie's video again a couple times. So he was doing this for the first time, and I think a lot of these steps he did might not necessarily have been needed. Because what I did was I applied several coats after I put down the wet wipes. You can see it smooths out the detail. And in order to dry it quicker, because it does take a while to dry, I put this back in the oven at about 200 degrees. And I put some thick coats of just the pure gel medium. But what I'm going to do next, and what the next step is to paint this. So I'm not using gloss paints, and he didn't use gloss paint. So I don't really think there's a need for the gloss gel. It doesn't really do anything. In the end, he used Krylon spray clear gloss acrylic in order to bring out the shine, several coats. And that's what I'll end up doing as well. So the gloss isn't necessary. You probably could use PVA glue for this stage of it, since you're painting over it anyway. And then later on with the cotton part, you're using PVA as well. So we'll see. But in any case, this is dry, and I'm ready to go ahead and start painting it. So I'm going to start first of all with some Tamiya royal blue, which is pretty dark. It's the darkest blue I have. Then I have some other lighter blues and even some paler bluish green kind of colors to bring out the colors in the water. So, all right. All right, so obviously I did a lot of painting, a lot of some cotton addition. The painting generally I used like a royal blue, which is a dark blue initially. Then I went back in with some lighter blues and some bluish greens, that kind of thing. Then I applied several coats of clear gloss acrylic to get a nice shiny look. Then I went back in with some Elmer's glue, thinned down a little bit, a couple of toothpicks, and applied the cotton. This was really difficult. The cotton was the hardest part, as Augie mentioned in his video. It's really hard because it's fibrous and it just would not cooperate. And I kept fiddling with it. At first I had it extended way too far out, and it was like, that's just not a realistic. I had the boat out to here, and it's like, no, that boat is not generating that big of a frothy wake. So I had to trim it way back down. Went back, let that dry. Then I applied another gloss coat over it, and then I went back in with some oils. That's how I added some of the white along these other ridges here. That would be more minimal. And even put some into the cotton, that kind of thing. So that's pretty much mostly dry. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put over the top of it, instead of another gloss coat spray, I'm going to use some of my my clear resin, which is really good stuff. It's pretty thick. It sets up pretty fast, so about an hour. So what I'm going to do is brush it over top of everything, just to give it a really high gloss, and hopefully give a little more realistic look to the waves and the foam, that kind of thing. So, okay. All right, so I finished Godzilla and I finished my little fishing boat. I took some pictures, but I didn't stop to videotape a lot of it because obviously I was rushed to get this completed in time for WonderFest. So let me go ahead and show you Godzilla. Used a lot of dry brushing. I ended up just spraying just at the bottom of him some of the clear gloss to make him look like he's wet, even though of course he would be completely wet since he was underwater. But I didn't want to take away the effect of the gloss on his eyes. Really like how those eyes turned out and the teeth. Definitely looks very, very crusty and very angry. All right, really, really cool. Happy with how he turned out. In the fishing boat, quite a bit of very delicate detail. So again, the fishing boat is 3D printed, but I did a lot of modifications. I added in those extra little railings and the platforms that they're standing on, the thing coming off the back. I made that little landmine. You can see it's 2 halves. I had some little half beads from Hobby Lobby. It's like a hard plastic, or I'm not sure what they are, but they had like a shiny coating on them, which I was easily able to sand off because it wasn't the one that I wanted. Glued them together, just cut off some little nibs from a piece of thin round stock and glued them on it. I actually drilled into it and glued on a metal rod, very thin, that I bent, and then glued the whole piece onto the end of that little boom that they're extending it out onto the ocean to drop it. I was thinking about putting a little string to the one sailor because he has the control, but I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or not. Sorry for the shakiness. The little figures are HO scale figures. I have a bunch of them that I got at one point, and I've been repurposing them. And in some cases, like the gunner, our main character, I had to cut some arms off of some other ones and glue them on because I didn't have any that had extended arms. But I did a lot of painting and weathering. A little bit of white speckles on the front is supposed to be the name of the boat, and white on the black bow. So definitely not screen accurate, but looking pretty cool. All right, so all I have to do now is get these glued onto the finished water display with 5-minute epoxy, and I will show the finale. And here is my finished Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla chasing the fishing boat with our main characters. Really, really happy with how that turned out. Came together really quickly. I built this whole thing in about 4 days. I mean, mainly the water effect was the hardest part to try to do. Godzilla was just painting. The boat was pretty tricky too. And I did put the little teeny figures, and I did attach a little piece of black thread onto the mine going into the side hand of the little sailor. And I know that it was a much longer cord on a reel so he could detonate it, but I just wanted to give a little bit of detail. There's little figures on the boat. The little mine, their last mine, getting ready to deploy it. First one didn't succeed in killing Godzilla. There's Godzilla. Get his eyes. Really happy with how his eyes turned out and his teeth. I really like this version of Godzilla. He's extremely menacing. He's just very angry and on a rampage. And wreaking havoc on a war-torn Japan. So, okay. Fantastic. So this will be going to WonderFest with me tomorrow, along with my 3 other models, the Creature, Revenge of the Creature, and my 2 N1 Starfighters, N1 and a 2. I will be posting, well, when you see this video, it'll be after WonderFest, obviously, because I'm not going to be posting it prior to it. So, all right. All right, so really happy with this build. I am back from WonderFest, obviously, as I said previously, that I would not be filming this and getting it uploaded. I did most of the filming prior to WonderFest when I was building it, but I didn't get everything wrapped up and do the final uploading and editing and everything until after WonderFest. So today's Sunday. I just got back a few hours ago from WonderFest. Really, really great show. I will be doing a video going over WonderFest and the great models and the other things that I've seen there. So here in a few days. I did take my this finished build as well. I'm not going to tell you what happened with it. I'll go over that in the video for WonderFest. But very happy with how this turned out. I really do like the effect of the water with the baked clay and the painting and the contouring and that sort of thing. So I will use that in the future again. I will tweak it a bit and use some other things. I think I'd probably go with the toilet paper version of the white water rather than the cotton in the future. Cotton is just too tricky to try to work with. But really happy with how this turned out, and definitely wanting to redo this effect in the future. So, okay. Well, thank you to all my new subscribers, and stay tuned for a WonderFest wrap up here in probably about 2 days or so. All right. Thanks a lot.